At my sister's wedding rehearsal, her fiancé smirked. Let's keep the seating classy. Maybe put him near the exit. Everyone laughed. Mom said, he should be grateful to even get a chair. I just nodded, took a sip of my drink, and said, good point. I'll let the caterer know to remove my section entirely. 10 minutes later, her planner whispered something in her ear, and the color drained from her face. My name is Tyler. I'm 30 years old, and for most of my adult life, I have been the person everyone in my family calls when they need something. Not when they want to celebrate, not when they have good news to share, just when they need money. I work as a financial analyst at a mid-sized firm downtown. The pay is decent, good enough that I could afford a comfortable life if I was not quietly bankrolling everyone else's dreams while mine collected dust in the back of my mind. I learned early that being dependable meant being invisible. Being useful meant being forgotten the moment the crisis passed. My sister Natalie is 27. She has always been the center of everything, the golden child who could do no wrong. When she wanted to study abroad in college, I was the one who covered her living expenses because Dad's business was struggling. When she wrecked her car at 23, I co-signed the loan for her replacement. When she decided to move into a luxury apartment last year, I quietly paid her security deposit because Mom said it would mean so much to her. Nobody asked if I wanted to help. They just assumed I would. And I did. Because that is what you do for family, right? You show up. You sacrifice. You smile and say, it is no problem, even when your own savings account looks thinner every month. I have been to every family dinner, every holiday gathering, every celebration where Natalie's accomplishments were praised and my contributions were never mentioned. I learned to sit quietly at the edge of conversations, nodding along while they talked about her promotion, her new boyfriend, her upcoming engagement. I was the reliable background character in someone else's story. When Natalie got engaged 6 months ago, the entire family exploded with joy. Her fiancé Brandon is exactly what you would expect. Confident to the point of arrogance. Wealthy family. The kind of guy who wears his entitlement like a designer suit. He looked at me exactly twice during that engagement dinner. Once when I was introduced, and once when Dad mentioned I work in finance. Both times his eyes glazed over like I was furniture. The wedding planning started immediately. Natalie wanted everything perfect. The venue, the flowers, the photographer, the dress. Everything had to be flawless, expensive, memorable. Mom and Dad were thrilled but worried about costs. That is when the hints started. Mom would mention casually how expensive wedding flowers were getting. Dad would sigh about venue deposits. Natalie would look at me with those big eyes and say she just wanted one perfect day. The unspoken request hung in every conversation like smoke. And like always, I started quietly transferring money. I paid the venue deposit, covered the catering down payment, handled the florist retainer, sent money for the photographer's booking fee. Nobody asked me directly. Nobody said thank you. They just accepted it as though my bank account existed solely to make their lives easier. And I let them, because rejecting them felt harder than just staying silent and paying. But something had started to shift inside me, a quiet crack in the foundation of my patience. I did not realize how deep it ran until the rehearsal dinner. The rehearsal dinner was held at an expensive steakhouse downtown. Dark wood paneling, soft lighting, the kind of place where every plate cost more than most people's grocery budget. I arrived on time, dressed neatly, carrying a card for Natalie and Brandon. I had written something generic and warm inside. Congratulations. Wishing you both a lifetime of happiness. The kind of thing you write when you are expected to participate, but not actually be seen. The seating chart was already set. I found my name near the back, at a small table with some distant cousins I barely knew. Not at the head table, not with the parents, not even with the wedding party, just tucked into a corner where I would not be in any of the photos. I sat down quietly, nodding politely at the cousins who looked just as confused about why they were there. The room buzzed with excitement. Natalie glowed in a white rehearsal dress, laughing loudly as Brandon's groomsmen made toasts. Mom and Dad sat close to the couple, beaming with pride. Then Brandon stood up, glass in hand, and started talking about the seating arrangements for tomorrow's reception. He was joking about it, making light remarks about who would sit where. People laughed. It felt harmless until his eyes landed on me. He smirked. That is the only word for it. A smirk that made my stomach tighten. Brandon said, "Let's keep the seating classy tomorrow. Maybe put him near the exit." The room erupted in laughter. Not polite chuckles. Real laughter. Like it was the funniest thing they had heard all night. My cousins looked down at their plates. I felt my face go hot. My hands gripped the edge of the table. Mom did not defend me. She laughed too. Then she added, loud enough for everyone to hear, "He should be grateful to even get a chair." More laughter. Natalie covered her mouth, giggling. Brandon high-fived one of his groomsmen. I sat there, frozen. The room spun slightly. My throat felt tight. I wanted to stand up, walk out, say something cutting and final. But I did not. I just sat there like I always did. Silent, obedient, invisible. I reached for my drink, took a slow sip. Let the cold liquid ground me for just a second. Then I set the glass down, carefully, and looked at Brandon. My voice came out calm, steady, almost pleasant. I said, "Good point. I'll let the caterer know to remove my section entirely." The laughter stopped, not all at once. It faded awkwardly, like someone had turned down the volume. Brandon blinked. Natalie's smile faltered. Mom frowned slightly but did not say anything. I stood up, pulled my phone from my pocket, and stepped into the hallway. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from something sharper, clearer. I opened my banking app and stared at the recent transactions. Thousands of dollars, all sent to vendors, all tied to this wedding, all under my name because I had been the one to actually pay. I pulled up my contacts, started with the caterer, then the florist, then the photographer. 10 minutes. That is all it took. 10 minutes of calm, polite phone calls to cancel contracts, reverse payments, and pull my name from every vendor agreement. I was not screaming. I was not crying. I was just methodically dismantling the foundation of a wedding that had been built on my silence. When I walked back into the dining room, I saw Natalie's wedding planner rushing toward her. The planner leaned in close, whispering urgently. I watched the color drain from my sister's face. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Brandon, then at Mom, then finally at me. I smiled, took another sip of my drink, and walked out the exit. The drive home felt longer than it should have. The city lights blurred past my windows, streaks of yellow and white against the dark. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. My chest felt hollow and heavy at the same time. I kept replaying the moment. Brandon's smirk, Mom's laughter, the way Natalie did not even flinch when they made me the punchline. I should have seen it coming. All the signs were there. The forgotten birthdays, the last-minute wedding party additions that somehow never included me. The way they only called when they needed money, never just to talk. I had convinced myself that quiet sacrifice was the same as love. That being dependable made me valuable. But I was not valuable. I was convenient. There is a difference between being loved and being used. I had spent years confusing the two, telling myself that family meant showing up no matter what, that my worth was measured by how much I could give without asking for anything back. I was wrong. And tonight, sitting in that restaurant while they laughed at me, I finally understood. The phone started ringing before I even made it home. First Natalie, then Mom, then Brandon. I let every call go to voicemail. I did not want to hear the panic, the excuses, the inevitable guilt trip about how I was ruining everything. I knew exactly what they would say, that I was overreacting, that it was just a joke, that family does not abandon family over something so small, but they had abandoned me years ago. They just never noticed because I kept showing up anyway. When I finally pulled into my apartment parking lot, I sat in the car for a long time. Engine off, hands still on the wheel. The silence felt different now, not empty, just still, like the moment right before a storm breaks. I thought about all the times I had put them first, the vacations I skipped to send Natalie money, the promotions I did not celebrate because I was too busy covering someone else's rent, the years I spent being the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who never caused problems because I was too busy solving everyone else's. I was done. Not just with the wedding, with all of it. The calls I would not return, The guilt trips I would not absorb. The role I had been playing since I was old enough to have a bank account. I was done being invisible. Done being the exit seat. I finally went inside. The apartment was quiet. My phone kept buzzing on the counter. 17 missed calls. I turned it off completely and sat in the dark. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. I woke up to 34 missed calls. The phone had turned itself back on overnight, and the notification screen was a wall of names. Natalie, Mom, Dad, Brandon. Even some of Natalie's bridesmaids I barely knew. The voicemails kept coming. I did not listen to a single one. Instead, I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop. I needed to see exactly how deep my financial involvement went. I pulled up spreadsheets, bank statements, email confirmations, every receipt, every transaction, every vendor contract I had signed or paid for over the last 6 months. The numbers were worse than I remembered. The venue deposit was $8,000. Catering down payment was $12,000. Florist retainer was $3,500. Photographer booking fee was $2,600. I had also quietly covered Natalie's dress alterations, the rehearsal dinner bar tab, and the transportation for out-of-town guests. Altogether, I had spent over $30,000 on a wedding where I was supposed to sit near the exit. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom finally broke through. It said, "Tyler, please, you're being childish. This is Natalie's big day. Don't ruin it." I stared at the message for a long time. Childish. That word sat heavy in my chest. I was childish for not wanting to be humiliated. Childish for not bankrolling a party where I was openly mocked. Childish for finally, after years of silence, choosing myself. I did not respond. Instead, I opened my email and started going through vendor communications. Most of the contracts had clauses about cancellations. Some were non-refundable if canceled within 48 hours of the event. Others required written notice. A few were flexible if the original payer requested changes. I was the original payer. My name was on everything. I drafted emails carefully. Professional, polite. I explained that due to unforeseen circumstances, I needed to withdraw my financial support from the event. I requested refunds where possible and confirmed cancellations where they were not. I attached my payment records as proof of my involvement. By mid-morning, I had contacted every single vendor: caterer, florist, photographer, videographer, DJ, transportation company, venue coordinator. One by one, I pulled my name and my money out of the wedding. The phone calls from my family got more frantic. Dad left a voicemail saying I was acting like a stranger. Natalie sent a text that just said, "How could you?" I finally typed a reply, sent it to the family group chat. It was short. I wrote, "I'm not ruining anything. I'm just not paying for it anymore. Good luck." Then I muted the entire conversation, put my phone face down on the table, and felt the quiet power of walking away. The pounding on my door started just before noon. Loud, insistent. I knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. Natalie stood there, face red, mascara smudged. Mom was right behind her. Both of them looked like they had been crying or screaming. Maybe both. I opened the door but did not step aside. Just stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance. Natalie tried to push past me. I did not move. She said, "You can't do this. You can't just destroy everything." I kept my voice calm, steady. I said, "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped paying for it." Mom cut in, her voice sharp and desperate. She said, "Tyler, this is family. You don't abandon family." I almost laughed. The irony was so thick I could taste it. I said, "You abandoned me at a table near the exit. I'm just following through." Natalie's face twisted. She was panicking now. Real panic. Not the performative kind she used to get her way. This was different. She said, "The wedding is in 2 days. 2 days, Tyler. The caterer won't serve food. The florist is pulling out. The photographer canceled. Everything is falling apart." I looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time in years, I saw her clearly. Not as my sister, not as the golden child, just as someone who had used me without ever seeing me. I felt nothing. No guilt, no sympathy, just a cold, clean clarity. I said, Then I guess you'll have to fix it yourself. Mom's voice went shrill. She said, "You're being selfish. This is Natalie's one special day." I shook my head slowly. I said, "No. Selfish is laughing when someone humiliates me. Selfish is expecting me to fund your dream while treating me like I'm worthless. Selfish is what you've been doing to me for years." Natalie started crying harder. She tried a different approach, softer, pleading. She said, "Tyler, please, I'm sorry. We were just joking. Brandon didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Please." I had heard apologies before, the kind that came when they needed something, the kind that disappeared the moment the crisis passed. This was different. She was not sorry I was hurt. She was sorry her wedding was collapsing. I said, "If it was just a joke, you would have stopped them. You didn't. You laughed." She stammered, tried to find words. Mom stepped forward, her tone shifting to anger now. She said, "If you don't fix this, you'll regret it. You'll lose all of us." I met her eyes. I said, "I already lost you. I've been losing you every time you forgot my birthday. Every time you only called when you needed money. Every time you made me feel like I didn't matter. This isn't me losing you. This is me finally realizing you were never really there." The silence that followed was heavy. Natalie sobbed into her hands. Mom's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. They were not used to me saying no. They were not used to me having boundaries. They were not used to me at all. I stepped back, started closing the door. I said, "The wedding is yours to figure out. I'm done." Natalie tried to shove her foot in the door. She said, "You're going to destroy everything I've worked for." I stopped, looked at her one more time. I said, "I worked for it. You just took credit." Then I closed the door, locked it, and walked away while they pounded and shouted from the other side. The pounding eventually stopped. I heard their voices fade as they left. The building hallway went quiet again. I sat back down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. If they were going to fight me, I needed to be ready. Not with anger, with proof. I spent the next 3 hours organizing every piece of evidence, every bank transfer, every receipt, every email confirmation, every signed contract. I created a folder on my desktop and labeled it simply, "Wedding Costs." Inside, I separated everything by category: venue, catering, flowers, photography, dress alterations, rehearsal dinner, transportation, miscellaneous. Each subfolder had screenshots of my bank transactions showing the exact amounts, dates, and recipients. I matched those with email confirmations from vendors thanking me for my payment. I downloaded PDFs of contracts that had my name listed as the payer. I even pulled up text messages where Natalie had casually asked me to cover things, always phrased like small favors that added up to thousands. One text from 4 months ago stood out. She had written, "Can you cover the florist deposit? Just $3,500. I'll pay you back after the wedding, promise." She never paid me back. She never mentioned it again. And when I looked through our entire message history, I found at least a dozen similar promises, all broken, all forgotten. I was not a brother to her. I was a bank account with a family connection. I also checked the vendor cancellation policies. The caterer had sent me a confirmation email that morning, acknowledging my cancellation request and processing a partial refund since I was the original payer. The florist had been less accommodating but confirmed they could not proceed without payment from the responsible party, which was me. The photographer had been the most professional, expressing regret but respecting my withdrawal, and issuing a full refund since the cancellation was made with 48 hours notice. Every single vendor had my name on file. Not Natalie's, not Brandon's, mine. Because I had been the one footing the bill while they planned their perfect day. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. It said, "We need to talk. This has gone too far." I replied, "I'm available to talk when you're ready to apologize. Until then, we have nothing to discuss." He did not respond. I did not expect him to. I printed out copies of the most important documents, bank statements showing the total I had spent, vendor emails with my name as the payer, text messages where Natalie and Mom had asked for money with vague promises to pay me back. I put everything into a folder, neat, organized, undeniable. I was not doing this to hurt them. I was doing this to protect myself because I knew what was coming next. They would twist the story, make me the villain, tell everyone I had sabotaged Natalie's wedding out of spite. They would rewrite history to make themselves the victims. But I had the receipts, literally. And if they tried to turn people against me, I would show the world exactly who had been bankrolling their dream while being treated like trash. I also sent one final email to the venue coordinator. I explained calmly that I was the original payer and wanted to confirm that without my financial backing, the event could not proceed as planned. I requested written confirmation of the cancellation. She responded within an hour. She was professional and understanding. She confirmed that the event was now in jeopardy unless another payer stepped forward to cover the remaining balance. I saved the email, added it to the folder, closed the laptop, and for the first time in months, I felt something I had not felt in years. Control. I did not go to the wedding. Obviously, I stayed home, made breakfast, went for a run, did normal Saturday things while my phone exploded with messages I did not read. But I knew what was happening. I could picture it perfectly. The venue would have called Natalie early that morning, asking for the outstanding balance before they could proceed with setup. She would have panicked, called Brandon, called Mom, called Dad. They would have scrambled to pull together thousands of dollars on zero notice. Credit cards maxed, bank accounts drained, desperation setting in. The caterer would have arrived and refused to unload food without confirmation of payment. The florist would have never shown up at all, since their contract had been voided. The photographer would have sent a polite email the night before, wishing them well but confirming he could not shoot an event he was no longer booked for. Around noon, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I answered out of curiosity. It was Brandon. His voice was tight, barely controlled anger underneath a thin layer of fake calm. He said, "Tyler, we need to work this out. Natalie is falling apart. This is supposed to be the happiest day of her life." I said, "It still can be. You just need to pay for it." He exploded. The fake calm shattered. He said, "You're a selfish piece of work. You're doing this because you're jealous, because you've never had anything of your own." I laughed, actually laughed. I said, "Brandon, I had $30,000 of my own. I spent it on your wedding. Now I'd like it back for something that actually matters to me." He sputtered, tried to recover. He said, "If you don't fix this, you're out of the family." I said, "I've been out of the family for years. You're just noticing now." Then I hung up, blocked his number, went back to my coffee. The messages kept coming. Bridesmaids asking what happened. Cousins confused about why the ceremony was delayed. Friends of the family trying to play mediator. I ignored all of it. This was not my circus anymore. These were not my monkeys. By mid-afternoon, I got a voicemail from Natalie. Her voice was wrecked, broken. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. She said, "Well, Tyler, please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. Just please fix this. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." For a moment, I felt something. Not guilt, not regret, just sadness. Sadness that it had come to this, that she had only seen my value when it was gone, that her apology only came when she needed something. I did not call her back. Instead, I posted something on my private social media. Just a simple, factual statement. I wrote, "For anyone wondering why Natalie's wedding hit some bumps today, it's because I was funding most of it and decided I'd rather not pay to be humiliated. I hope she and Brandon figure it out. I'm moving on." I did not tag anyone, did not share screenshots, did not throw anyone under the bus. I just told the truth. Simple, clean, undeniable. Within an hour, the post had dozens of comments. Friends I had not heard from in months reached out privately. Some were supportive, some were shocked. A few were angry at me, but the truth was out, and I did not care who believed what. The wedding, from what I heard later, was a disaster. They managed to pull together a bare-bones ceremony with a courthouse backup plan and a small reception at a relative's house. Nothing like the grand event Natalie had dreamed of. Nothing like the perfect day she had planned while spending my money. And I was at home, peaceful, free, finally sitting somewhere other than the exit. A week passed. The chaos settled. The calls stopped. The family group chat went silent. I was not blocked. I just was not included anymore. And honestly, that felt like a relief. I spent the week doing things I had not done in years. I went to a movie by myself, took a long drive upstate, looked at apartments in quieter neighborhoods, started thinking about what I actually wanted instead of what everyone else needed. The refunds from the vendors started coming in. Not all of it. Some deposits were non-refundable, but enough came back that I had reclaimed a decent chunk of the money I had spent. I put it into a savings account I labeled simply, My Life. Mom sent one final text. It was short. It said, I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. I thought about that for a long time. Destroyed. As if I was the one who had broken something. As if years of being ignored, used, and humiliated had not been destruction. As if I was supposed to keep funding my own invisibility forever. I replied, I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending I was part of it. She did not respond. I did not expect her to. Natalie never reached out again after that voicemail. I heard through distant relatives that she and Brandon went on a small honeymoon funded by his parents. That they were moving forward, that they were fine. Good for them. I genuinely meant that. I did not want her to suffer. I just did not want to be her ATM anymore. Dad called once, late at night. His voice was tired. He said, I don't know how we got here. I said, you got here by forgetting I existed unless you needed something. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I'm sorry. It was the first real apology I had gotten. It did not fix anything. It did not undo years of neglect. But it was something. I said, thank you. We did not talk long. I did not know if we ever would again. That was okay. Some relationships are not meant to survive honesty. I thought about Brandon's joke a lot, the one about putting me near the exit. He meant it as an insult, a way to make me feel small, but he accidentally gave me the best gift, because when things fell apart, I was already near the door. I did not have to fight my way out. I just had to walk through it. I was not angry anymore. I was not hurt. I was just done. And being done felt better than anything I had felt in years. I opened my laptop, started looking at vacation packages, solo trips, places I had always wanted to visit but never went because I was too busy funding someone else's life. I found a week-long trip to the mountains, quiet, peaceful, far from everything. I booked it, used the refund money, did not ask permission, did not justify it to anyone. For the first time in my life, I was not near the exit. I was walking towards something that was entirely my own, and I did not need anyone's permission to leave.